بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حميم عين سين قاف كذلك يوحي إليك وإلى الذين من قبلك الله العزيز الحكيم.
محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with Surah Ash-Shura, and we're still in ayah number 38. Ayah number 38 from Surah Ash-Shura. And we stopped at the part of the ayah that says وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, which is why the surah is given the name Ash-Shura, because of the only place it's mentioned, even though it's mentioned in the Quran وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, as a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, to make shura with the people. But the word shura here as a concept, as a noun, is mentioned in the ayah, and that's the name of the surah. So وَالَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ, the many characteristics of the believers, as we heard in the ayat, those who they believe, they make tawakkul ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every matter of belief and every action. And those who stay away from كبائر الإثم والفواحش, the major sins and the immoralities, according to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid in the Quran and in the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. And وَإِذَا مَا غَضِبُوا هُمْ يَغْفِرُونَ, and whenever they are being angry or made angry, they would forgive and pardon. وَالَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ, those who استجابوا, they replied, they answered the call of the Lord to be obedient to Allah, submitting themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةِ, and they established the salah, and the relationship between that after the waw, that this is, as we heard, from عطف العام على الخاص, something general is mentioned, and then a specific action here because the importance of the salah, which is the most important sign for a person that made istijaba to Allah, responding to the call from Allah 5 times a day. We are being called 5 times a day to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to worship Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. That's the end of the ayah, and then it continues also afterwards. And their affairs is shura بَيْنَهُمْ. So he says here in the Tafseer, وَأَمْرُهُمْ, we just started yesterday, أي وأمرهم الديني والدنيوي, their أمر. Al-Amr, it's a command, or also the affairs. أمرهم, their affairs. The entire life come under that word Amr. All of their affairs, the religious ones, the dunya matters, every matter, their affairs, shura bainahum, consultation between one another. Shura, this is the meaning of shura. Before we continue, because again, this is tafsir, so we won't cover every aspect of the shura, even though it's important. There are ahkam, there are things that related to it, but some major principles here. The word shura is translated as consultation, but the word shura in Arabic gives us the essence of what consultation is for. Consultation is not a goal in itself. It's because of the benefit that comes out of it, and that's what shura means. The shura, the root of it comes when they would extract the honey from the bees. So that means you get the best of things and decisions and so on when you sit with one another to make shura. You're trying to extract the best. And that's why the affairs of the people, and there are many nusus that states this, their affairs is best if they would apply the concept of shura, but according to the way of the Prophet ﷺ, not according to the false way of making shura. So this is how it's supposed to bring matters of goodness as a result of that. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ أي لا يستبد أحد. None of them would يستبد. That means he takes the matter only to his own self. He only sees himself. He only sees as his decision and opinion is the right opinion, without consulting, without trying to extract the benefits from others. برأيه, with his own opinion, في أمر من الأمور المشتركة بينهم. So this is not in all other affairs, but the matters that are مشتركة. The matters there is some common thing among them, they are all affected by it. Even if it's in the household, a person in his household, he's going to make a decision that affects everyone. And the matters or the affairs of the people, if it's something that is religious, but the matter has been already determined and decided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's no shura. There's no consultation in there. Meaning, establishing the salah on time, this is not for debate. This is not for taking opinions. Halal and haram, there's no opinions in this. The halal has to be observed, the haram has to be stayed away from. But matters that would affect them, that is not, again, based on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade. Moving to another place, for example. Even what should we eat today or not, it's okay. Any matter that has, people will be affected by it, and the major things among communities, among leaders and everything else. So أي لا يستبد أحد منهم برأيه في أمر من الأمور المشتركة بينهم. The matters that is مشتركة, common among them. He says وهذا لا يكون إلا فرعا عن اجتماعهم وتوالفهم وتواددهم وتحاببهم. This is an important aspect of shura, because a shura, to have this and to include people in trying to get their opinions, that can never be attained. وهذا لا يكون, can never be attained إلا فرعا, unless it's a branch of what? اجتماعهم. This is the asl, this is the root, this is what they're all upon, and then the far'a of that branches out from that is the shura. اجتماعهم, that they are together, their hearts are together. وتوالفهم, from the ta'aluf, from al-ulfa, their hearts are together, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ولكن الله ألف بينهم لو أنفقت ما في الأرض جميعا ما ألفت بين قلوبهم ولكن الله ألف بينهم. To the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, if you spend all the wealth on the face of earth, you won't be able to bring their hearts together. But rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that brought their hearts together. In the ta'lif, that means the hearts are united together. So إلا فرعا عن اجتماعهم وتوالفهم. That means if they're not, the hearts are not together, there's no point of shura. The shura, if it's meaning consultation, would cause more harm. People will fight with each other. They hate each other. They're waiting for a fault from one another. But when the heart's together, and that's why when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Prophet sallallahu وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, make consultation with them, these are the closest ones to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And who are the people of Ash-Shura to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam? Not the masses, not the hypocrites and everyone else. It's the special among the people that the Prophet ﷺ would consult with them. In some matters, he might bring a bigger crowd, like the Muhajirin and the Ansar, like in the Battle of Uhud and things like this. And there is Ahl-Shura of Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu had, from the best of the companions radiallahu anhum, the Shura, they are the ones that give the Shura to him. And when Umar radiallahu anhu was dying, he left the Khilafah to be decided by appointed ones for them to make shura among them to decide who's the Khalifa, not the entire world. And they're the ones that chose Uthman radiallahu anhu, and so on. So these are all parts of course, the ahkam. So ta'aluf, that's why if people want to make some form of a mashura, they need to make sure that their hearts are together. They're on the same thing. They're on the same objective. They're the same way of understanding, things like this. وتوالفهم وتواددهم. التوادد is the mawadda, is the love. They love one another and they show that love to one another. So al-mawadda is more than love. Love and more. Love that is extended, that is shown. وتواددهم وتحاببهم. Al-mahabba is the love. So these things, and you add to it وكمال عقولهم, and their عقول, the reason kamal from al-kamal is complete. That means they're wise people, not someone that is ignorant or does not have, whether it's the aql that would make a person responsible for their actions, and also kamal al-aql is for someone that has knowledge, someone that is aware of things. And sometimes a person might not have the knowledge of the religion, but someone that is trustworthy, someone that is religious, and he is asked to make the shura in a matter that he's an expert in. something medical, for example, something with whatever expertise he has. But that is not to be standalone mashura, because their deen has to be understood in matters of ilm and so on. So this is المشورة, as he said, وهذا لا يكون إلا فرعا عن اجتماعهم وتوالفهم وتواددهم وتحاببهم. And as you see that, just to that point, what people are upon is, for many cases, this is something else other than the shura. So when people are enemies to each other, and each one, you see how politics is. They're not there to what is best for the most part, but they want to defeat one another. They want to, get on top of one another and be the victorious ones, and it's all personal glories. And you see how the beauty of the deen of Islam is. Miraculous ahkam, that people need to witness that in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's not about personal gains. It's about the benefit that the people would receive, otherwise they would suffer. Everyone would suffer as a result of what's in the hearts, and things are not done in the right way. He says, وَكَمَالُ عُقُولِهِمْ أَنَّهُمْ إِذَا أَرَادُوا أَمْرًا مِنَ الْأُمُورِ. This is also the sign of كَمَالُ الْعَقْلِ. When someone is mustabid, when someone is only taking his own opinion, that's a sign that he has weaknesses in his own reason. Because from كَمَالُ الْعَقْلِ أَنَّهُمْ إِذَا أَرَادُوا أَمْرًا مِنَ الْأُمُورِ, because if they want to do a matter of their affairs, التي تحتاج إلى إعمال الفكر, matters that requires people to work on their thinking, it requires thinking. والرأي فيها, needs opinions. The king of Saba, she asked the people, and she made it very clear to them, ما كنت قاطعة أمرا حتى تشهدون. And she is someone that Allah praised in the Quran. Even though she was a disbeliever, but out of her wisdom, she said, I would never make a decision, قاطعة أمرا, making a decision or a matter very swift and determined, unless you witness. She would take their opinion, and this was discussing with them what to do with the situation of Sulaiman alayhi salam, something that would affect them. So إعمال الفكر, to put the effort to think, والرأي فيها اجتمعوا لها. They would gather together for this matter, وتشاوروا, and they would make the mashura. Again, the mashura is when people are making mashura, everyone is extracting the best of what's in his heart for everyone else. What is the best from his opinion, from his expertise. وتشاوروا وبحثوا فيها, and they research the matter. حتى إذا تبينت لهم المصلحة. So they're sitting together with all of what's mentioned before, till the maslaha or the benefit becomes clear to them. Once it becomes clear to them, انتهزوها وبادروها. انتهزوها, they would quickly take it. Al-intihaz is when you take something before you lose it. And sometimes nowadays, more on the contemporary way of people saying things, they talk, for example, about الشخصية الانتهازية. Someone, his personality is intihazi. What does intihazi means? He's greedy. That means he wait for the opportunity and he snatch it quickly, doesn't care what others are doing or affected by it. So, but here, of course, they're sitting together. Once they see the maslaha, once they see the benefit, they would take it. وَبَادَرُوهَا, they would be in haste in doing it. And of course, when they're sitting together, each one might have their own opinion, might be opposite to the other ones. And that's why things are to be treated with an amir, with someone in charge. And the one in charge, he's the one that to make the decision, of course, after making the mashura, and they're all together. And that's why even an amir or someone in charge, he should make the people of shura people that he trusts and people that are all together upon the same thing. Unlike you would find, for example, they say the Majlis al-Shura, or the Shura people, for example, right? The way to select the Shura people has no means that would bring only the people that are together, they have the same concern together, and they are righteous and so on. This has to be done this way. And then when they all sit together, no one is against them or so. That means the one in charge of them, they all together upon the same thing. These are people that are close to one another. So he says, وَذَلِكَ كَالرَّأْيِ فِي الْغَزْوِ. This is like the opinion in al-ghazw, fighting, wal-jihad, وَتَوْلِيَةِ الْمُوظَّفِينَ لِإِمَارَةِ, appointing muwazzafin, workers for the leader, for example, appointing someone this place, that place, governors, things, mean many matters of running countries, أو قضاء, justice, أو غيره. This is from the affairs of the people of authority. وكالبحث في المسائل الدينية عموما, and also when researching a matter of religion in general. The matter of religion, not the ones that has already decreed, so to apply it in one's life, right? To take the opinions, is this is really applied to this? You know, should the people do this or not? And knowing, of course, the ahkam from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فإنها من الأمور المشتركة, because this is from the common things among people. والبحث فيها, and to research in the matter, لبيان الصواب مما يحبه الله, to be able to figure out the correct matter that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. This is their concern, is to do something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. وهو داخل في هذه الآية, and it's part of this ayah because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the people to make shura. So that means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love for people to make shura, and with matters of knowledge to know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them, from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Ibn Kathir rahimahullah, before we continue, he said, وأمرهم شورى بينهم, أي لا يبرمون أمرا حتى يتشاوروا فيه. They don't الإبرام الأمر, الإبرام is to make a knot. They don't establish something unless they would make مشورة. ليتساعدوا بآرائهم. They help one another with their opinions. في مثل الحروب وما جرى مجراها, in matters of wars and other things, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, وشاورهم في الأمر فإذا عزمت فتوكل على الله. You make the mashura with them, and once you're determined, the matter is decided, then rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go forward. That's why the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, and he's the messenger of Allah, the one that receives revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he would still take the opinions of people and make mashura with them. ليطيب بذلك قلوبهم. He's also, instead of legislating for his ummah, and the people are commanded to follow the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, and he won't say, Ana Rasulullah, and this is the way it goes, unless it's a wahy from Allah, even if it's against the people. As in Sulh al-Hudaybiyah, for example. The Prophet ﷺ went for the matter of the Sulh and the peace of al-Hudaybiyah, when the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they saw that this is something that is so much unjust for them, because they're going for Umrah, they're not going to fight, and they're being prevented, and why should they be humiliated? But the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, Ana Rasulullah, I'm the messenger, this is wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu would say to the people, and he said to Umar, he is Rasulullah. Wallahu Azza wa Jalla will aid him. فَكُنْ عَلَى غَرْزِ, stay on the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So this was not a matter of shura, but rather this is clear wahy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as he mentioned, what Umar radiallahu anhu, when he was stabbed and before he died radiallahu anhu, جعل الأمر بعده شورى. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu did not make the matter shura after him. The Prophet ﷺ, who to lead after him was not shura, was Abu Bakr. ويأبى الله, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refused anyone except Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. So, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, when he died, it wasn't shura, because he knew for sure that what is best in that position is Umar radiallahu anhu. Umar radiallahu anhu, he made the matter shura after him. And we are commanded to follow the ways of the rightly guided Khalifa after the Prophet ﷺ. So sometimes it's what's benefiting, this is the goal. So he made the shura after him in 6. Uthman and Ali and Talha والزبير وسعد وعبد الرحمن بن عوف رضي الله عنهم أجمعين. فاجتمع رأي الصحابة. Their opinions were all upon على تقديم عثمان رضي الله عنهم over all of them. And again, there are many examples in this. And to teach one another how to establish the shura in making sure that seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To end the ayah, inshallah ta'ala, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُم يُنْفِقُونَ was mentioned before that. They spend from what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for them, whether it's the obligatory spending, which is the zakah, or the optional spending. And then وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَهُمُ الْبَغْيُ هُمْ يَنْتَصِرُونَ. The ayah after that, and those who, when the baghi afflicted them, which means, and those who, when tyranny strikes them, they defend themselves. So he says here, أي وصل إليهم من أعدائه. Al-baghi is the tyranny, aggression. If it reaches them, والذين إذا أصابهم البغي, the baghi afflicted them, touched them. هم ينتصرون. ينتصرون, they, الانتصار is to aid one another, is to seek victory, and in this context, of course, is to defend themselves, to oppose the aggression. He says لقوتهم, because of their strength, وعزتهم, and their honor and dignity. ولم يكونوا أذلاء عاجزين عن الانتصار, and they're not humiliated, unable to be victorious over their enemies. فوصفهم بالإيمان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned this as one of the characteristics of the believers. They don't accept humiliation. They defend themselves. They defend themselves against aggression if they're being attacked. والتوكل على Allah, and to rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now he's going back to these characteristics. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وصفهم بالإيمان. These people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described them with al-iman, والتوكل على Allah, from the beginning of these verses, relying upon Allah. واجتناب الكبائر والفواحش, staying away from the major sins. والفواحش, the immoralities. الذي تكفر به الصغائر. These matters that الصغائر is to be forgiven or expiated, which is if they remove themselves away from the kaba'ir. If they stay away from the kaba'ir, then the صغائر are to be forgiven by their good deeds, like establishing the salah. Because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in many of these acts of worship, it forgives the sins ما لم تجتنب الكبائر, as long as the kaba'ir is avoided. So Ramadan to Ramadan, Jum'ah to Jum'ah, the Salah to another Salah, sins are forgiven in between, as long as the kaba'ir, the major sins, are avoided. Because the kabira has to have a special repentance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from it. وَالْإِنْقِيَادُ التَّامِ, and the full submission, because that's al-istijaba, responding to the call of Allah. والاستجابة لربهم, وإقامة الصلاة, and establishing the salah. والإنفاق في وجوه الإحسان, and they spend from their money in all matters of goodness, إحسان. والمشاورة في أمورهم, and they consult with one another in their affairs. والقوة, and the strength. والانتصار على أعدائهم, and to be victorious over their enemies. فهذه خصال الكمال. This is the characteristics of al-kamal, of perfection. قد جمعوها, they have it in them. And of course, as the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, for example, he was not physically victorious over his enemies, but he was victorious still ﷺ by being firm upon his religion, even if he faced all kinds of harm and torture and so on. And the physical victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they have the means to it. والانتصار على أعدائهم. فهذه خصال الكمال قد جمعوها. They attained all of these perfect matters of kamal and perfection. He says ويلزم من قيامها فيهم فعل ما هو دونها وانتفاء ضدها. This is an important also benefit to learn. That is ويلزم. That means by necessity. If someone قام بهذه الصفات, if someone did these characteristics and he was upon them, by necessity, he says فعل ما هو دونها. By necessity, he would do what is less than that. If this is mandatory and they're upon it, that means what's easier or less than that, that means من باب أولى. Very easy to understand that by necessity they'll be doing it. Also, by necessity, وانتفاء ضدها, they would negate themselves from the opposite of it. So it doesn't have to be said that they do not establish the salah. They stay away from not establishing the salah. It's very obvious. If they're commanded to establish the salah, that means they don't do the opposite. If they're among those who stay away from the kaba'ir of the sins, it doesn't mean that they do kaba'ir of the sins, right? So this is negates what's the opposite of it. Otherwise, then they're not upon these characteristics. And this is always in every matter that we are commanded to do. To have it or to be among the people of it, the person has to make intifa, or to negate from himself what contaminates it, what makes a person not from its people. If a person wants to be from Ahlul Quran, things to be done and things to be avoided. If a person wants to be from Ahlul Tawheed, he has to do the acts of Tawheed and stay away from Shirk and so on. So this is some of these characteristics that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned about the believers, and they seek help from Allah, and how it's mentioned with al-iman wa tawakkul first, because all of what's mentioned afterwards requires al-iman wa tawakkul ala Allah, and relying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them to be guided to be upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants of them. We'll stop here inshallah ta'ala, and then after that the ayat continues, also gives a very important principle in how to deal with matters of uqubat or punishments. How to the perfect way of establishing a system of punishment will be in the next verses inshallah. So we'll stop here inshallah. Now it depends on, of course, on what is the setup of things, but every shura, any affairs of anyone, they have to have an emir. Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said if there are 3 people, they have to make an emir for them. And any place has one in charge, even the house. The emir of the house is the husband, for example, the man in the house. So he's the one that to call the shura or anyone else. Of course, if he does, then it's an obvious one. If someone else, then they have to go through the emir. So they don't call the shura on themselves, but they have to consult with the emir of should we have a shura for this. So this is how it's supposed to be. And usually the people are upon, even though this is not a hadith, but it's a statement from the early generations of Islam, in takunu yuwalla alaykum. Whoever, the way you are, your emir is like you, something of that nature. So then, they don't go against what the emir says. They would call this by the emir. Okay, the attendance code is shura. The question, does shura have to be taken from all people at once, or can it be done one by one, meaning taking consultation with each person individually? This is a good question, because again, there's no one form of shura. And the word shura, because it's been used in many setups, people think that this is the shura, because people call it shura. No, shura is a concept. So the one in charge, he can take 10 people on the side and make shura with each one of them alone. And that's shura, right? And or to bring who he trusts, or the ones that worth having shura with them. It's not a mandatory thing that every single person has to be attending the shura. And again, this is okay to say these types of things. So, for example, you have shura meeting in masajid. What does that mean? It's mandatory upon the 2,000 people, members of the masjid, right, to be present, and they have, this is not the shura that is mentioned in the Quran. It's okay if they do this out of, they see that this is something good and so on, but not to attribute it to the religion, right? And it's not something that is majority for, there's no such a thing as majority call for the shura. All of that is, again, is not something that is, the goal is to bring benefit. So if you have, as an extreme example, as we always say that, if you have 51 drunken and a 49 wise people with knowledge and experience and everything, and you open something for a vote, the 51 will vote for something, and they will win, and they will bring all kinds of misery for any community. So it's not about the numbers. It's about the real wisdom of things, and for people to trust those who are in charge and those who have knowledge and experience and expertise and so on. But again, it's not one set of things. So in this case, doesn't have to be all the people. It's all to bring matters of goodness, inshallah. And there's so much benefits of it. Of course, if someone in charge and he makes a decision, without the shura, the blame is going to be all on him. But if he consult the people that are in charge and they have the concern altogether upon the same thing, right? Then if it brings any harm, this is done in the right way. And no elections for sure. بارك الله فيكم. Continue inshallah next time. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.